People, DG, I'm back again now. Today I'm obviously working from home and I feel it's a blessing in disguise because I'm able to speak almost instantly about this news. Obviously I'm referring to Jose Mourinho's been sacked with immediate effect in regards to his position at Manchester United. It did shock me. Did it shock me in the sense that you could see it coming? No, because it did look like this. What first started off as I'll say love story, but it really wasn't in the sense of United haven't been where they wanted to be or where they should be, if, whether you believe that or not. Post Sir Alex Ferguson, United is a club enriched with winning. Jose Mourinho, say what you want, was enriched with winning. Obviously, he needed time and all of these things. And this whole love drama, imaginary thing of him being the saviour, it hasn't worked out. It's been everything but a love drama. It's been a long, tired, drawn out marriage essentially, and where we've now essentially got to the divorce. We've seen him back some players, some youth players. We've seen him desert Shaw and then bring Shaw in, which back in, which could have spelt danger. Martial, he's bust up with Alexis. Obviously, Paul Pogba's now relegated to the bench, and I mean, one good thing about Jose leaving is the likes of Martial, Alexis, Pogba, De Gea. Their futures are probably closer to being solved, or more so in a positive light, and it only stands of a thing where did these players, specifically I'm referring to De Gea, want to sit around for another rebuild when they should be at one of the top clubs in the world. So yeah, obviously he leaves Manchester United with in sixth. I've got it in front of me on 26 points. Arsenal in fifth on 34. So if it is still mathematically possible to get top four, I suppose, even though Arsenal are in fifth. Chelsea are on 37 points, so it's a tough ask, but it's still mathematically possible. Poor start to the season. Hindsight, you obviously, one thing I'll give Jose, he did speak about how, and again, I'm not backing Jose because ultimately the tactics, the style of play, the handling of players haven't been there, but he did say in the summer they need to be backed. It's going to be a long summer, a long season, sorry, and I do think a number of them board members need to hold themselves accountable. I'm not a United fan. So you lot know more than me, know more than me. But looking at it from an outsider people, Wenger had a lot wrong at Arsenal towards the end, yeah. But people, because of that, and because of ultimately all falls on the manager, but because of that, people in other positions of just importance or arguably greater importance or just need to pull their weight were able to hide. Not to name drop Woodward, but Woodward's been there for four appointments now at Man United. You've seen Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose, and we could say Giggs, I'm sure. None have been a success. We'll allow Giggs. Obviously, Van Gaal and Jose have won titles, but it's not been United. United haven't been in a title race where I'm sure United would want to be in Liverpool's position and Jose would have kept his job. It hasn't been that. We know Jose, the mind games, the constant comments, the football heritage, the show respect, the this and that. It's funny for other fans, but it's draining on United now, and it became a case of when is this going to end? When are they going to pull the plug? You're hearing 22 million payout. That's a lot to bite the bullet, but on the grand scheme of things, United make a lot of money. That could have been the best 20 million odd spent. Liverpool, the defeat, or just I feel the defeat in Liverpool, the defeat against Liverpool was terrible, but I feel it was just the performance and because of who they were playing. Woodward and the coach just had enough. And if you remember, there was actually a similar performance against Liverpool that Man United put in, and I think the only difference is they drew. Rashford actually scored, but too often than not, United, I don't even know if it's a word, but United have set out, especially in big games for me, in a defeative attitude. There's been individual moments of brilliance saving them from set pieces or players working something for themselves, but I'm yet to see United, probably against Fulham fair play, with fluidity, playing the Manchester United way. United clearly need a trainer first, coach second. What I believe now, again, I'm not watching United religiously, but what I believe they need now is to look at the models of current day football. It's gone. The men of Wenger and Jose is gone now, people. The closest you probably see to that now is probably Eddie Howe at Bournemouth and maybe some other examples where they could probably do more than just being a manager. It's gone. Clubs can't rely on one man. It's dangerous. Like you're seeing with the two examples I've given. United now have a chance. It's not going to be easy. For me, clearly, like I was trying to say, they've writ off this season. It's mathematically possible to get in the top four. Champions League, playing a big PSG side, probably not expected to win, probably helped sway the decision. But they've writ it off. But what they can afford to do now is just to get things right. Get a trainer coach, someone that has to work with what they or who tries to work with his existing core of players. Get them playing his way, get them understanding, ultimately get them with confidence, and then move forward from there. I'm going left and right, but what I mean by that is if he has to work with that, he's a head coach essentially. You still want your manager to look at targets, identify targets, and have a say. I'm not saying that, but what you need now is you need a whole list of players, of people now. There's not enough footballing men clearly on that board at Manchester United, so they either need to get some or they need to invent some positions. With again, I'm very wary of using this title, but a sporting director, a head of scouting, and similar to Mislintat, all of these things that can identify targets, possibly bring them in without the manager say so, and get him to work with them. You need balance because obviously the manager still has to bring his men in. Because for me, that's what United are on now. In hindsight, I don't think United should be... The only contracts I should be seeing renewed if I'm a United fan is De Gea, Martial, and a couple of them sort of caliber players that might be running down their deals. But you're seeing Smalling, Jones, Young, all of these sort of players giving new deals. In hindsight, I do think Jose wanted them to stay. But in hindsight, is that for the new manager? Because if you look at it, obviously it's not a quick fix. It takes about 3 years. Now, all of them, Young and them and they are past it, and they shouldn't be at a team that wants to win titles. No disrespect to any of them. But keeping them man there, they're experienced, they've played under Ferguson, they know how they know the United way of playing. Obviously, they can be senior figures or mouthpieces or help keep authority within the dressing room if this new manager isn't getting what he wants across to people. And then you gradually shift these lot out, to which would take a couple of seasons. Because if I'm United now, whoever comes in as their caretaker boss or whoever they're eyeing up as head coach, regardless, they need to bring a centre-half in January, possibly get some of these players out. Realistically, you can't do too much in January. So the summer is when a lot of the outgoings has to happen. It's unrealistic to think a core bunch of that squad, it would be sensible for the core deadwood of that squad, the majority, every single deadwood member, to depart that club in the summer. It can't work, and to a degree, that can actually have a negative effect when there's too many changes. So essentially, I'm saying from now to probably January 2020, it's now getting the only main priority should be getting the deadwood out, bringing some players in. More importantly, implementing an attractive way of football, because United fans have been robbed of that. I'm sure United fans, obviously they want to be up with City and stuff like that, and it hurts that they're not up with City, but I'm sure most fans would just take fighting, going into big games especially, fighting, playing in an attractive way, playing with pride on the shirt, because too often they're not. United play a lot of money for their season tickets. They're leaving games feeling shortchanged. Every fan doesn't want to lose, but I'm sure the United fans will accept defeat if and when it comes. Too often they're not. United have lost in ways they shouldn't have lost. You look at Liverpool. Yeah, you could say United at some point they could have got something out of the game, but it's a defeative attitude essentially within that game. Several games, you look at the draws with Wolves and things like that, things that shouldn't essentially be happening. I actually think him losing the dressing room is completely irrelevant to this. Not in the sense where clearly people losing the dressing room is obviously of severe importance. But for me, the dressing room's the least of his worries at this moment. I think if he was playing in a certain sort of way, the club might actually back him. I mean, I think he's done a successful job turning people on Paul Pogba. Pogba's got a lot to answer for. But things like that, I feel the dressing room, with Jose, it's always going to be fractured. I think it's just they've had enough of how the football's being implemented. They just obviously have had enough. Like, it can't get any worse, sort of thing. They've accepted. I think they've sat there and said, okay, we'll accept coming 5th, 6th, 7th, not getting top 4. Hope on a wish on a star that we can do something in the champs and get in there. But it's just about biting the bullet, essentially. They need to look at Roma's model, or possibly some other clubs that have several people in charge of transfers, in charge of ensuring places or positions in the squad are renewed and things like that. They need a revamp. I also wonder what the compensation fee for Jose exactly is. If it's 20 odd mil and you'll come drop DG a mil, man. Help me better these thingies, these resources and things like that. So Jose deserved to go. There's a lot wrong with Jose. He tried to run a club in. I said it. If you go and look at all of my videos in regards to Jose, I've already said the nonsense that Jose comes with sometimes. You can't do it at United. There's too many whispers and voices and things like that. It's not like Chelsea. No disrespect. You can't go and do these sort of things. You won't. He's actually done well to stay in the job longer than he has, in my opinion. To be fair, man. Yeah, for me, they just need to evolve. They need to look for a trainer, whether that's Yardim. Nagelsmann's got a lot to answer for me personally, especially defensively, and he's obviously going to Leipzig, which is going to be another exciting project for him, and I'm excited to see possibly the United job and the task at hand. I wouldn't say it's too big, but there's a lot of work to be done. Similar to Henry at Monaco, it's completely different, but in the sense of you want to take the job, but is it a lot? I'd be looking at someone like him that's going to promote young players. You look at Greenwood, Chong, Gomez, and a couple of James Garner, a lot of other players here and there. Scholes 14. there's some talent. The pathway needs to be there. The pathway's not there at United. Yeah, you can say Gomez made his debut under Jose. McTominay got minutes, but there's some good players out there. The pathway needs to be clear. The young players need to be able to look and say we have a chance. Because look at Strong, he looks like he's ready essentially for minutes. They just need togetherness. I wouldn't even say the dressing room looks fractured. I think they're together. They're divided in a sense where it was them man versus Jose. I wouldn't say it was like Arsenal where some man are saying this, some man are saying that, some man got one ear out the door and one foot out the door, and all of these things. I mean, ultimately, United just simply need something different. I think they need footballing men on the board, and I also feel for everything Jose's done wrong, and I'm not defending him in any way, he needs to go, but I do think people are hiding behind him. I don't know any of the other board members, but Woodward, all I can say is that Jose did say you lot need a centre-half and certain other things. It didn't come. He wasn't backed. Ultimately, you did back him because he spent 300 odd million or so since he's been here, and it didn't bang in it. But something needs to be given. I think he holds the lion's share, but I do think Woodward and a lot of people need to pull their fingers out, and I feel United are being shortchanged. I mean, last year, 19 points behind Manchester City. That's got to be burning them. Arsenal we was a myth, so we can't talk, but you get what I'm saying. At least Jose, if I'm Jose as well, I'm leaving. I'm being shameless and saying, all right, cool, I was a negative, and he ultimately was toxic. I don't like to make comments like that because they do seem personal, but it was toxic. You remember the training ground looked toxic. You look at the whole Pogba saga. Yeah, at least Jose can say he walked away with a League Cup and a Europa League. To be fair, you can be shameless and say he delivered the first ever Europa League title to Manchester United, and he technically got them back into the Champions League, something his two previous managers at the club didn't do. Now, Jose's obviously hurting. I mean, at one point I thought it was unrealistic for him to actually get the Manchester United job because he's been talking about it for a while. Even when he was at Chelsea, he hinted to it. He's like, one day I'll take over United. I'd be open to it. I didn't think it would happen. Obviously, ironically, with Louis van Gaal, and Jose was actually quite disrespectful to a degree. I love Jose, but he was actually quite disrespectful about Van Gaal, talking about the job while he was in the position. And it's funny how it changes. It's sad as well because it's another defeat against Jurgen Klopp, which means he's defeated. And I do think it does feel like similar circumstances to when he was sacked for the second time at Chelsea. Where Jose goes from here, I don't actually know, people, because he's linked with Inter and he's been linked with Madrid, but is he the right man for them? I'm not too sure. I do think he'll get another position, but when that happens, I'm not too sure. In regards to Man United's new manager, caretaker, allegedly it's going to be Giggs. I'm not too sure on that. Managers, I'll be looking at Jardim. I know Jardim's last season at Monaco didn't really help, but he does fit the profile as a trainer, coach, someone that can work with what they have essentially. Martial knows him. I think that's the approach they need to go with now. I think United need to accept, if they haven't already, that it's not a quick fix, that it's not going to be a thing where Jose, someone that's a winner, comes in, we sign players that are winners like Pogba, and we're instantly back with United. Football now is about working with what you have, getting the best out of what you have, and being a trainer, coach. You can't pour money at things anymore. United have money. Like, if pouring money was an issue, was a problem solver, they would have solved it by now, but it hasn't been solved. So yeah, man, like, I know United fans and a lot of United fan friends are excited because if I could show you my WhatsApp group chat, they're going ham, like, they're excited. But it is what it is, man. At least United still mathematically can get top 4, even though it does look like a tough ask. I mean, yeah, man, they sit 6th on 26 points after 17 games. Last year they finished 19 behind City. Like I said, Jose at least walks away with a Europa League and a League Cup, but they haven't. I couldn't tell you one game United have played spotless in. I mean, you can see the highlights. I mean, they counter-attacked us at the Emirates very well, in my opinion, when Lingard scored. There's been games where they've done alright, but often they're not. You'll be struggling for 5 games, which off the top of your head since Jose's been here, in which you could say, yeah, they were Manchester United performances. Whether they won, lost or draw, people, I'm not just saying win. When can you say that they played that attacking style? They played to win. United played to win. I've seen United too often. They not have a defeated attitude. Again, from time to time, that's nothing wrong with that. From time to time in games you don't expect to win. But no disrespect, I've seen it against Newcastle. I've seen it against Wolves. I've seen it against some sides. United. We shouldn't even have to be sitting here having this conversation or saying the things I'm saying. But yeah, man, must admit it did shock me because I didn't feel United would have sacked him right now. But obviously enough's enough, and they have a plan in place. And if I'm them, make sure this plan, whichever you're doing, whoever you're trying to implement, whoever you're in talks with as I make this vid, it is done correctly, it is done thorough, it is done with seeking the opinions of many experts and things like that. Because again, for all of Jose, the sword needs to die on Jose essentially, because how he's handled the players, the tactics, style of play, media, everything has been poor in his opinion. But the boardroom, they need to answer several questions, because they're getting to run behind Jose and all that's wrong with him, because serious questions need to be asked. Because from how can you spend all this money and you know better than you previously looked? There's something wrong. People need to. There's accountability. There's not in failure. Same way in success. It's never just the manager's fault. In failure, it's never just the manager's fault. A lot of it stays with Jose. I'm not excusing him of it, but there's still other reasons as to why things happen. United fans know so more than me. So on that note, I'm gonna shut my mouth. People, like I said, Jose's gone, and in fact, for us in Wenger, it's funny how life hits you in it, Jose. It's funny. 1 minute you're calling people specialists in failure, the next minute you're getting sacked almost 24 hours a year to the day essentially when Chelsea got rid of you. I mean, life hits you fast. Since he's been calling Jose Wenger a specialist in failure, life has been hitting Duns very fast, and it's also it also keeps up the pattern of Jose with his third season, how it doesn't typically end well. So yeah. Where he goes, I'm not too sure. You could never rule out him managing in the Premier League again. He's been linked with Madrid and Inter Milan. I mean, considering where United have been, there's nothing wrong with that. We're going completely off target and off topic as well, people. But I do think Max Allegri will probably leave Juventus. He probably won't, but he will leave if he can't win the Champions League with Jose Mourinho with Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not saying Jose's going to manage Juventus. What I'm actually saying is, could Allegri manage Manchester United at one point next season or so? Just look at it. Imagine this: United bring Carrick or whoever as a caretaker gaffer. If Juventus win the champs, alright, cool, he stays. If Juventus lose, he might concede that, okay, I've tried so long, I've been to a final before, I've got Cristiano Ronaldo and I still couldn't do it. Do I now go to the Premier League? And the carrot of managing Manchester United is one that wouldn't be turned down. It probably won't happen, people, but that's just me speculating. But staying back on course. Like I said, man, let me shut my mouth. People, the leaders, stay safe and them things there. I'm out. Safe, Jose, man. Wenger and Louis van Gaal, I know you, man, are somewhere sipping your sweet wine, man. Jose, thank you, man. It was enjoyable these last few months, but all good things come to an end, man. We wanted you to stay, but on that note, DG, I'm out. Bang, bang.